Just gotta share my screen. Can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody see my screen okay? Just let me know in the chat if you can hear and see me okay. Or just say something to let me know you can hear me and see me okay. Okay, perfect. So we'll get started. So thank you for signing up for this workshop on creating an NFT for artists and musicians. Before I get into actually creating an NFT, I'll introduce myself and give you some background context on why I'm even hosting this workshop. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce myself. We're going to go over some blockchain basics. Now, blockchain is a wide scope, so I just want to try to give you the introductory foundations so we can begin to have a discussion around blockchain, or you can go in these Twitter spaces or Discord servers and start to begin to understand. I'm assuming everybody here is somewhat of a beginner, or we have no experts here because of the nature of the workshop. And then I'm going to go into introduction to NFTs, and we're going to bundle the introduction to wallets, setting up Metamask into one. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about NFT marketplaces, and we're going to actually do something called minting and mint an art piece on Opensea. So to give you some background context, my name is Dominic Norton. I do a lot of workshops primarily in the no-code space. So I teach people and communities how to make native applications, progressive web applications, Chrome extensions, different NFT marketplaces without coding. And that's what I love to do. It's what I enjoy. I really believe in equity and diversifying and sharing the knowledge, because that's what's been done for me and that's how I learned. My 9 to 5, I'm in the cybersecurity industry. I'm a cybersecurity product manager for a software company. I am a fellow of On Deck, which is a global program of innovators and technologists, and I am formerly a virtual design construction engineer. So we're not going to cover that bit, but part of my interest in this whole Web3, in metaverses, comes from my interest in architecture and design. That was my background in university, architecture and design. I ultimately went into architectural technology in the field. Now I'm in cybersecurity, but still have a strong love for architectural technology, and that's kind of what inspired me about this whole movement around blockchain and Web3. I've produced projects that are being featured by Vice, Russia Today, The Guardian, The Independent, and ITV. I'm currently based in the UK. I do travel a lot, but that's why a lot of the outlets that have featured my works are more British-based. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and just shout out and ask the question. I can't see the chat, so you would just have to let me know if you have any questions. And please do ask questions, because all of this can get really confusing really quickly, and I want to make sure that I'm trying to help you in the best way possible. Like I said, I'm doing this especially for free because I believe in sharing the knowledge. I believe that this technology in many parts of the world is going to be very dominant, and I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to understand and play in the space.
Hi, Dominic. Could I just suggest that the events page, when you access the event, it says that the event finished this morning at 6 a.m. Okay. So can I suggest put in the Zoom link to, because some people might not access the email. So posting the Zoom link to the event page directly.
Okay. I'm trying to think the best way to do that. Okay, what I'll probably do is just I have my phone open, so I'll just watch my phone and see if anyone emails. I think that might be a mistake on my side. Thank you for telling me. So we're going to go over, to start with, I want to try and do my best to provide some context to NFTs. by helping you understand a little bit about blockchain and cryptocurrency and all these kind of terms that are being thrown around. I want to try and keep this as simple as possible. So if you do know a little bit about this, this part might be a little bit simpler for you, and there might be things that are missing that you have an awareness of. But I'm trying to bridge the foundation for people that don't know anything, which is my assumption, to knowing a little bit. So what is the blockchain? The blockchain is a public record of recording transactions between assets and people. If you think about a common analogy used is the bank. If you think about the bank have a record of everyone that deposits money, everyone that sends money, all the businesses they invest our money in. They have a record of that. That is a closed record. We can't look at that as customers of the bank, and it's limited to a certain set of people that can actually see that record. But blockchain, at least the promise of blockchain, attempts to nullify that by providing transparency and providing validity. So with the blockchain, with most blockchains, but not all, you are able to see publicly a record of the transactions. No, you cannot see my name as Dominic Norton, or you can't see my email address or phone number, but you can see a wallet address. So we'll get into wallet addresses when we get to wallets. You can see that. There's websites where you can actually search up a particular wallet and see what transactions they've made and actually trace back transactions. But that is the promise of blockchain. And if a good example of why this is so important to many people is because you think about the history of the banking system, the history of the insurance system, the history of the healthcare system. Centralized recording has been important for a certain period of time, but there's also been huge mistakes with decentralization. And decentralization and kind of opening up the books to say can present many solutions to the problems that are occurring currently. So how does it work? And again, I don't want to get into too much depth and confuse you or even bore you, but I do want to provide some context. So anytime a new transaction has happened, if you just think about a chain of blocks, anytime something happens, let's say I try and send Bitcoin to you, or I try and send something to you, a new block is created, that's added to the chain, and then the chain becomes irreversible. So if you think about this centralized ledger the bank may have, technically speaking, things can be removed, things can be hidden, things can be erased. In the blockchain, that's not possible. It's not possible for something to just be reversed like that. A new block is always created with every transaction or every event or activity. Again, if you have any questions, please just feel free to shout out because I can't see if you're writing anything in the chat. This kind of leads to what's called the blockchain trilemma. And there's many things I could have actually covered, but I tried to cover most basics. When we say blockchain, typically if you haven't been in a space, you think it's just one thing. The technology can be considered one thing, but you have different types of blockchains with different properties. So when you're talking about what's on here, Ethereum, and you might have heard Ethereum in the news or somewhere, that has certain sets of rules, certain sets of properties that make Ethereum good for certain things, but bad for other things. What this blockchain trilemma is about these three components: decentralization, scalability, and security. The thought is that you can't have all three. You can only have two of three, which makes different blockchains, and as we get into cryptocurrencies, different cryptocurrencies good for different things and different use cases. As we lead into the use cases, you have use cases in art and media, which you're probably more familiar with when you're talking about royalties, whether that's music or if you're a visual artist, whether you're talking about making short films and how people are paid and how people are given credits and just having a public history of who actually worked on what in the healthcare system, government, retail. So you have all these different ways blockchain can be used and different cryptocurrencies can be used. What I found I guess, solace, or I feel comfortable in certain types of places based on my experiences in technology. I like things related to architecture, related to design. I like the metaverses, but certain types of metaverses. As you begin your journey or continue your journey in this space, it's important to remember that it is so wide, and not to try and get caught in too many things, and not to just chase, I guess, the next hype. Considering your interest in art and music, and that's a good place to focus on art and music and how the blockchain will influence art and music. That leads into what is cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency is a way to exchange assets. Bitcoin is probably the most famous one, and Bitcoin is primarily used for financial transactions. For those that are Bitcoin investors, Bitcoin holders, their vision of the future is that the world or countries or cities will primarily use Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is only good for certain things. It's good for financial transactions, but you don't have what's called smart contract functionality in Bitcoin. That leads us to Ethereum. Ethereum is probably the second most popular to Bitcoin, and you can do some really interesting things with Ethereum, like smart contracts. So you can use Ethereum in games. You can use Ethereum in the manufacturing industries and different industries and program some kind of logic to enable Ethereum to work. But the downside with Ethereum is the fees associated with Ethereum. Even though Ethereum is decentralized, there are fees that you pay to this decentralized system to be able to maintain it. It's not one individual person. It's people all over the world that are maintaining the system. And then you have Mana. So Mana is slightly different. Mana is something I'm excited about. Mana is the cryptocurrency for the metaverse called Decentraland. So you probably heard about a metaverse or some kind of metaverse. The metaverse is these kind of virtual worlds where you can have an avatar and interact. You can attend concerts or galleries or play games. If you have any children, nieces, nephews, they probably play Minecraft. They probably play Roblox. It's like that, but there's so many different kinds of metaverses for so many different kinds of communities. And typically they will build their own cryptocurrency to allow you to exchange. This workshop is not a focus on cryptocurrency, but I do feel it's important. I might do another one. You can make your own cryptocurrency for your own community, and you can sell it publicly. But again, this is not the focus of this particular workshop. And I think the last thing, or the last point before we get into NFTs, is Web3 or Web 3.0. So if you might hear this term a lot too, Web 3.0. Web 1.0 was the beginning of the internet. That was read-only static websites where you couldn't actually really interact with it. The information wasn't dynamic. Web 2 is what we're in for the most part now. Web 2.0 is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. That's all these platforms. That's dynamic. It's extremely social, but it's still very centralized. You know, people are leaving YouTube all the time because they're getting censored by YouTube and censored by Twitter and censored by all these platforms. Web 3.0, or at least the promise of Web 3.0, is that it's different. That it's decentralized, so people are building decentralized versions of Spotify, decentralized versions of Instagram, decentralized messaging systems, and that's the promise of Web 3.0. That is a relatively similar system, but less centralization. Does anyone have any questions on the basics before we get into NFTs? And remember, you're going to have to shout out if you're typing. I can't see it. If no one has any questions, we'll move on to NFTs. So what is an NFT? An NFT is a non-fungible token. NFT stands for non-fungible token, and that is a unique token. So compared to cryptocurrencies, when we had Bitcoin, Ethereum, Mana, when you buy Bitcoin, when you buy Ethereum, when you buy Mana, there's nothing unique about it. Yes, there is a limited supply, but there's nothing unique about it. When you buy an NFT, each NFT that you buy, sorry about that, each NFT that you buy is unique. At least the back end of it's unique. This can be static artwork, this can be animation, this can be music, this can be a combination of them, or NFTs can extend to lots of other things. Just looking for my charger. Why do people buy NFTs? I think that's the biggest question going around so far. It's at least the biggest question I've been asked. And there's several different reasons why. When you're looking from the outside, it just looks like all one thing, but there's sub-communities within the NFT community or the NFT ecosystem. Some creators are using it to raise funds for their projects, whether for their music projects or art projects. And some people are buying their NFTs to support the creator, to support this artist or musician. Some people are using it as a personal investment. So you have people buying NFTs that hope they can flip the NFT for a profit because they think it will be valuable later. And that's happening with artists, it's happening with musicians, but it's also happening with different types of creators within the space. Membership and community. And I think we're seeing that with some of the biggest NFTs out there. You're seeing that owning an NFT might give you access to these celebrities or communities that these celebrities are part of. It's not just about the personal investment and the flip, but you also have access to the actual community itself. And sometimes NFTs have a unique utility. For example, you can grant them access to a concert, you can grant them access to one-on-one coaching sessions. So really, the sky's the limit of what utility you want to add. And sometimes people talk about utility. Sometimes people are like, every NFT has to have a utility. But as I mentioned with the first example, sometimes people buy NFTs just to support the creator. And that's okay too. So does anyone have any questions before I get to the advantages and disadvantages? I'm just looking around for my charger. So advantages and disadvantages of NFTs. The advantage is that it is cutting edge. A lot of people think that you have to be the best. Sometimes you just have to be there early. If you think about the early days of YouTube, if you was just creating, you didn't necessarily need to understand what it was. You just need to just create. And over time, as more and more people join the ecosystem, join the network, you would have built a plethora of content, a plethora of audience and thought leadership in the space. And being first does matter, or being early matters. Another advantage is that you can sell direct to the consumer. So the promise of blockchain and the promise of NFTs is that you can go direct and almost bypass agents, or at least if you have someone involved, you can easily track royalties and track transactions, where right now that's not easy for artists and musicians. And also lifetime earning potential. Again, in these smart contracts, you can write to get royalties, 5% royalties every time it's sold, 10% royalties every time it's sold, but it's up to you. The disadvantage is that I'm new to buyers. So what I have found is that to even purchase an NFT, there is a hurdle for people, and it is new to buyers. So if you have an audience, if you have a community that know nothing about crypto, nothing about NFTs, it could be hard initially for you to sell to that audience that you currently have. Fortunately, there are many people that do know what NFTs are, and they will become a new segment of audience for you. Misinformation and fraud. So there is a lot of fraud, a lot of misinformation in the space. And I think the longer you're in the space, the more you'll be able to build that muscle of discernment and be able to tell what information's good and what information's bad. But there is a lot of misinformation and fraud, promises on projects that are never met, and that happens a lot. The learning curve can be a lot, especially if you don't have workshops like this and you jump in Twitter spaces and they're using all these acronyms and saying a lot of things you just don't understand. Not everybody is welcoming in the space. That can make the learning curve hard. Also, the number of marketplaces and ecosystems. there is a lot of marketplaces and ecosystems, and it can be difficult to know where to start. Today, we're going to start with Opensea, but there's a number of different marketplaces that we could have started in. So case studies. So I tried not to take case studies you probably know about. I tried to take ones that you probably don't know about. These are 3 cases. 2 are art. 1 is music. Here we have, in the first one, you have the Mona Lana, and that was 500 unique portraits of women, and the collection sold for 300,000, I believe. I'm not sure as of today, but when I previously looked, there was still works being sold within the collection. But that is, I believe, the lady that made this collection was 24 years old, and for artists, that is amazing. We're not going to go over how you make 500 unique pieces in this workshop. I'm just going to have to show you how to make a one-on-one and how to mint that one-on-one. I do have tutorials on how to make 500 unique pieces, and I'll probably do another workshop on that, but it's not the scope of this workshop. Music piece, Whitney Houston. I'm sure we all know Whitney Houston, but an unreleased song sold for £750,000. That was a one-on-one. And for me, even though that's a huge legendary artist, I think it does show the potential for NFT music. And there is, I'm sure if you're a musician, there's music that you haven't released that people would love to listen to, especially if you've already got an audience, or people would love to buy if they believe in you and they believe you're on your way up. And it does show the potential for NFT music. And I've put this in long neckies, and this is a very good case. I believe the girl that made this was 12 years old. She made a collection. The collection's now worth over £1 million. I'm not sure how many pieces were in the collection, but she started graphic design at 9. She is a talented designer, but for me, it was a story of, hey, she didn't know what NFTs was. She didn't know what the space is about, but she just put herself out there and just continued creating, and people just bought in, and her projects gained momentum. So that's what I hope I can install in you today, the confidence to release your own projects and the knowledge to release your own projects. So let's create. So before I get into MetaMask, does anyone have any questions before we actually start to do this practically?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about the Web 3.0 again.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, like, as you gave examples of like using a decentralized versions of different apps like Instagram and Twitter and other places, how exactly would it be decentralized? Would that be like new versions of like software, like new types of software that do the same function as Instagram and Twitter? Or would it be owned, or not owned, but like, would it be still facilitated by the major corporations? Like,
it wouldn't still be okay, the promise is that the major corporations are not involved at all. The reality is they are involved somewhere down the line, but not as centralized. So, for example, right now, if Twitter wanted to kick you off, they could kick you off. If their servers to go down, it's ruined for everybody. Like, nobody has access. In a decentralized system, because it's hosted in multiple places and no central authority is hosting it. In theory, and again, this is still early days, in theory that the reduction of it being centralized does create some stability across a network. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And what we I'm not sure if we got time. I'll bring up examples at the end, but I'll just do this quickly right now. This is a very good example that I like. So this is, I'm sure you've read at some point in time, you've read an article, you read Medium, or article on Medium. Mirror.xyz is basically Medium, but Web 3.0 decentralized version of Medium. So you can blog on here, and it's a decentralized version of Medium. Even though they don't spin themselves like that, it's basically a blogging site. So any blogging site that you've seen, and Medium is probably the most popular, this is a decentralized version. Okay, so we're going to get started. I did see another... Okay. More about how we can... Okay, I want to get create a course and sell it as an NFT. Physical art, I like to know the process to sell that as NFTs. Okay, so I'm going to keep that to the end. Yeah, I'm going to keep that to the end. So I see the suffer, I see the 2 questions. I'm going to keep it to the end. And what we're going to do right now is mint an NFT. So you need to mint on Opensea. You're going to need Metamask. So Metamask is what's called a non-custodial wallet. So I already got Metamask, so I can't install this again. But what you need to do is go to the Chrome web store, and I'm recording this, so you'll be able to watch this back. Go to the Chrome web store and download Metamask, and it installs as a Chrome extension right here. And what you will do is go here in this little puzzle, and you will click Metamask and make sure it's pinned right here. When it's pinned, you'll be able to open it. And you'll be able to open it. You'll be prompted to create an account. You don't have to type in no details or anything like that. You'll just be prompted to create an account. I can actually do that here. And I'll just name this another test account. And it will open an account for you. There's some keys about Metamask. Metamask, again, is a no custodial wallet. Even though it says need help, contact Metamask support, there's very little support with Metamask you can get because there is a company behind this, but it's not centralized in the way your bank is centralized. That means you have, if we go to settings, and if I go to, I think it's security and privacy, right here, it says reveal secret recovery phase. There is a secret you have. There is a 12-word secret, and this is how these non-custodial wallets, not just non-custodial wallets, but this is how these kind of wallets work in Web3 space. You have a secret phase. You do not share that with anybody, absolutely nobody. Anyone who has that secret phase can access your account from anywhere, and nobody can help you. If you give away this secret phase, nobody can help you. So if someone steals your NFTs in your wallet, they steal your crypto in your wallet, that's it. It's done. There is no recovery. There is no help you can get. You do not share this phrase with anybody, absolutely anybody. If anyone claiming to be Metamask asks for this phrase, it's a lie. It's a scammer. There's no one that will ask for this phrase. There is no company that will ask for this phrase. In Web3, this phrase is everything to you. Non-custodial wallets is not centralized, and custodial wallets are very different. So if you think about Binance or Crypto.com or Coinbase, it's a lot more user-friendly. You get a lot more help and support. But as you might have heard, Coinbase, they can block. Sometimes they're being blocked in certain countries, and you can't withdraw. You might have difficulties withdrawing your crypto into your bank account, and they can actually do that. And because a lot of this space is unregulated, things happen, such as hacks happen, and you're left exposed because there's no protection. Whereas if your bank is hacked into and for some reason your money disappears, you have some kind of protection with the bank. Those are the 2 big differences. What we see here with MetaMask, so when you create an account, you'll see something like this. You'll see assets and activity. Once I make some activities, I'll be able to see my transactions here. I'll be able to see my assets here. I can actually add tokens. Let's add sand. I don't have any. Obviously, I just opened this test account, but this is another metaverse, and I don't have anything here, but you can add tokens here. When we spoke about blockchains, right now I'm on the Ethereum mainnet, but there's other networks These are all test networks. So as a developer, I use some of these to put tokens on, and when I release sites, I put it on some of these. But you have different networks you can plug into. Again, that's probably a little bit more advanced than where we're at right now. What you also have is your hash. So you have your address. So right here, I copied it. But if I go here and just type this is my address. On Twitter, you might have seen some people that have something like this. This is mine. That's what I have, dominiconnorton.eth. And you can actually get a crypto domain, and it's called a crypto domain. So instead of this long hash, someone can send money to Dominicon or crypto to dominiconnorton.eth, and I don't have to remember, and they don't have to remember this long address. That's a whole nother process beyond the scope. I just want to let you know right now. And let's see what else. So I think I covered most of Metamask. Please, if you have any questions about Metamask, now is the perfect time to ask. If anything's been on your mind about Metamask, I'll check the chat in case people are still writing in the chat. Okay, no one has any questions. So what we're going to do now is go into Opensea and actually mint something. Oh, maybe the last thing that I wanted to talk about with, and you can see it here. Anytime you go on a website that's Web3, it's not going to ask you for your username and password. It's going to ask you to connect using your wallet. So as you can see here, as soon as I landed on Opensea, which is one of the biggest NFT marketplaces, it asked me to connect using my wallet because it's not connected to this particular wallet. So I'm actually going to connect with this wallet. But you also have to keep in consideration how many sites you connect to and what you connect to. So right here, you can see I have connected sites Opensea. But if I'm not going to connect to another site, but as you connect to more sites, you'll be able to see. But you just want to keep in mind, because sometimes you might do research about an NFT project and you might connect to the site, and that's not a project you want to stay connected to. Sometimes, again, I said about the misinformation fraud, sometimes projects are fraudulent, and you just want to make sure you moderate what sites you connect to. What we're going to do, so Opensea is an NFT marketplace, is one of the biggest NFT marketplaces. As you can see, it has about the top collections. You can search and discover. Somebody asked about creating their own NFT marketplace, and I do have a YouTube channel where I go over that. I might even do a workshop like this where I go over that. But you can create your own NFT marketplace without coding, and that's beyond the scope of this workshop, but I may do another one that covers that. So what you want to do to create your first NFT is go to create, and then I'm going to use Metamask, but you can use others. And as you can see, I have created my first account, and I'm going to click create again. And typically it asks you to do this. So it just asks you to authenticate and sign. I'm not paying anything right now. I'm not making a transaction. I'm just authenticating my account. So all the authentication happens through your wallet. Again, no username and passwords. So when I click create, it's asking me to create a new item, and it's asking me for some details. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to upload. I do have something I can actually mint. I'm going to name this Cyber Grills 1. So you add a name, you add an external link. That's probably going to be a link to your website, or a link to somewhere that can give them more information. You can add a description if you want. I can actually connect this. This is I don't have any collection right now, so it's not going to show a collection. So here's where it gets interesting. I do have metadata here, but I'm not going to put that right now. But you can add traits. And this is where people have these 500 NFT collections. Each NFT will have a trait. The way, and I'm just answering this before someone asks, the way people create that is, yes, they use code. I do have a tutorial on how to do this as someone who's non-technical. It will be using code, but I basically give it to you step by step. But they create all the background layers. They create, like for this, I created a background layer, I created a lips layer, I created a grills layer, I created a piercing layer. I think those are all the layers I created for this particular one, even though I'm minting this as a 101 for now. So you can add these additional properties. You can add unlockable content. So if we do that, the content can be an access key, a link to a file, or any other thing that you want them to be able to access once they purchase this. And you can mark it explicit content. Obviously, this is not explicit content. This is interesting right here. If you submit to the blockchain, if you submit to Ethereum blockchain, you're going to have to pay money in gas fees. And gas fees is the cost you pay for transacting with the blockchain. That money doesn't go to any one person. It doesn't go to the person that founded Ethereum. It goes to the system. It goes to the community of people all across the world that maintain the system. If you want to maintain the system, you can maintain the system yourself, and there's a cost to that. There's also a reward for that. But that's where your crypto or your money is going to if you mint or do any transaction on the Ethereum blockchain. What we can do is we can mint on the Polygon blockchain for free. So that is another blockchain with different properties that allows us to mint for free or really, really cheap. So what we're going to do is click create. So I have just minted my first CyberGrills NFT on this account. And what I want to do next is click sell. So it's not in no collection. You can see everything. I click sell. And now I can set the amount. Let's say for 0.03. As you can see, 0.3 is $94, which is slightly less in pounds. So I can set a duration for this to sell, or I could reserve it for a specific buyer. So we're going to go down. We're going to complete the listing. Again, I have to authenticate again. Again, this is not costing me. When it costs me something, it actually shows that it's going to cost you something. So now this is being sold. So you can actually search this now. As you can see right here, you can see I minted it a minute ago and listed it 16 seconds ago, 17 seconds ago.